Controversy and chaos hit the NASCAR world as Hendrick Motorsports finds itself in hot water once again. With Denny Hamlin's penalty upheld and William Byron and Bowman's unlawful car modifications, fans and analysts alike are left wondering, what's really going on with the dominant team? Join us on NASCAR Zone as we delve into the situation and consider the implications for both the team and the sport as a whole. But before we dive into that, do subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. Let's take a look at the upheld penalties against Denny Hamlin before we discuss the current issue with Hendrick Motorsports and NASCAR sanctions. Denny Hamlin's 25-point penalty for pushing Ross Chastain into the wall at Phoenix was not overturned, and he was therefore had to serve the penalty. On Thursday, an appeals panel came to the conclusion that the punishment that NASCAR had handed down to Hamlin should be upheld. During the final lap of the race, Hamlin made contact with Chastain, which resulted in Chastain being driven into the wall. Hamlin started the next day on his podcast that he intended to put Chastain into the wall, and in response, NASCAR penalized him 25 points and fined him $50,000. Hamlin ultimately changed his mind and decided to file an appeal of the judgment after first stating that when the penalty was handed down, he would not be appealing the decision. It was not the first time that Hamlin and Chastain had a confrontation with one another. The two drivers collided on the track many times in 2022, most notably playing a game of chicken at Gateway, which resulted in Hamlin hitting the wall off Chastain's bumper and sending him into the barrier. Hamlin was given a penalty because of a rule that specifies a driver can receive a penalty of 25 to 50 points and a fine for wrecking or spinning another vehicle, regardless of whether or not that vehicle is removed from the competition as a result. It also said that Hamlin's acts could be considered harmful to stock car racing or NASCAR. On Wednesday, a different appeals tribunal upheld the majority of a parts penalty that was handed down to College Racing from Phoenix. This appeal judgment came a week after a different appeals panel overturned the points punishment against Hendrick Motorsports for apparently comparable conduct. Now let's see why Hendrick Motorsports got penalized again. Bowman and William Byron, both drivers for Hendrick Motorsports, have been given penalties as a result of breaches that were discovered during the post-race inspection at the NASCAR R&D Center in North Carolina following the Richmond round. Due to the illegal changes that were made to the greenhouse, the two teams have been deducted a total of 60 points and 5 points toward the playoffs, and their interim crew chiefs have been suspended for 2 races and fined a total of $75,000. Here is what Jeff Gluck said in his statement. Big penalties for Hendrick again. William Byron and Bowman. Cars were taken as the randoms at Richmond, found to have illegal greenhouse areas during R&D Center teardown. Both drivers lose 60 points, 5 playoff points, sub-crew chiefs suspended 2 races, fined $75,000. As a result of the short notice, the punishments that were handed down to interim crew chiefs Greg Ives and Brian Camp will not go into effect until the following week. The fact that these individuals' tenures as interim crew chiefs are going to come to an end with the dirt race at Bristol Motor Speedway on Sunday renders the suspensions pretty unimportant. Because of the point deductions, Bowman dropped from 1st to 7th place in the Cup regular season standings, while Byron, who is the only driver who has won 2 Cup races so far this season, moved from 4th to 14th place in the standings. On Sunday, Bowman secured the 8th place in Richmond, while Byron led the most laps in the race before falling to the 24th position. It was the second penalty in 4 weeks for the Hendrick Motorsports drivers. Last week, an appeals board overturned 100-point penalties and 10-point playoff point penalties, but upheld $100,000 fines and 4 race suspensions for modifying radiator exit duct covers last month in Phoenix. After 2 appeals verdicts were handed down on Wednesday and Thursday, NASCAR was very likely to have a sense of being justified. On Wednesday, a different 3-person appeals panel cut a 100-point penalty to 75 points and upheld the penalties of 10 playoff points for Justin Haley of College Racing and a $100,000 fine and 4-race suspension for Trent Owens for breaking the same rule as the Hendrick cars in Phoenix. Haley had been given a 100-point penalty. NASCAR posted this statement and said, "The numbers 24 and 48 cars have been issued L1 level penalties for a modification to the greenhouse. The penalties are a loss of 60 driver and owner points and a loss of 5 playoff points for the drivers and owner." After which, Hendrick Motorsports responded to it and said, "We are reviewing the penalties issued today by NASCAR and will determine next steps following Sunday's race at Bristol Motor Speedway." When asked for a comment on whether or not it would appeal the fines that were issued to Bowman and Byron, Hendrick Motorsports did not immediately react to the inquiry. Why did NASCAR choose to do their inspection at Hendrick Motorsports? After a race, NASCAR has the right to inspect any car, and it frequently takes cars to its research and development facility for a deeper look. These automobiles are frequently referred to as randoms due to the fact that they are occasionally selected at random. However, this is not required of them. Kyle Larson and Josh Berry's Hendrick cars finished first and second at Richmond, so their cars were partially taken apart at the track. Most of the time, these cars don't need to be checked again because they have already been through a pretty thorough inspection. It was decided by NASCAR that Bowman and Byron's Hendrick automobiles would be sent to North Carolina. The fact that it didn't take any others could be read as a strategy to tease AGAIN after the appeals board gave NASCAR a significant blow the previous week. According to Steve O'Donnell, Chief Operating Officer for NASCAR, the decision to yank the Hendrick cars after Richmond was not a deliberate plan to harm the team's performance. And recently, regarding the penalty situation, NASCAR has just made a significant change to the rulebook. According to an update published on April 6, NASCAR has changed the language included in Section 10.5.2. The regulation now reads, "The National Motorsports Appeals Panel and Final Appeal Officer may not completely strike any element of an originally assessed penalty." These parties can change the original sentence, but only within a certain range. For example, if NASCAR issues a penalty that is divided into 3 parts, a fine, a suspension, and a loss in points, the appeals panel will not be allowed to eliminate one of these portions while keeping the other 2. They can get rid of the whole penalty or make changes that are within the range of legal choices. Consider the L2 level penalties that were established ahead of the 2022 Cup Series season. An L2 violation can result in penalties ranging from 75 to 120 points being deducted, 10 to 25 playoff points being deducted, 1 or 2 crew members being suspended for 4 to 6 races, and a fine ranging from $100,000 to $250,000. If NASCAR imposed a sentence that includes a 6-race suspension for 2 crew members, a $200,000 fine, and a loss of 100 points, the appeals panel might reduce these amounts while still concluding that the team violated the regulation. In any of the competitions, they simply could not go below 75 points, $100,000, or 4 races. So what sparked this discussion to begin? The fact that 2 different Chevrolet teams received L2 level fines for identical infractions is the key reason why this problem has received additional attention. Both parties filed an appeal, but one left the conference room in a far stronger position. Hendrick Motorsports was the first to file an appeal after being punished at the L2 level for making unauthorized modifications to a single source part, but louvers. Nonetheless, the appeals panel overturned the point deductions. In comparison, Khalid Racing had one of their hood louvers removed following the practice session at Phoenix Raceway. The L2 level sanction was also imposed on the number 31 squad, prompting an appeal 1 week after HNS submitted its case. The appeals panel, which was made up of different people than the panel that heard the HNS appeal, determined that Khalid Racing was also in breach of the NASCAR rulebook. The suspension and sanctions imposed on the crew's chief, Trent Owens, were upheld. The points penalty was also maintained, however, it was reduced from 100 to 75. Overall, this is a very difficult situation for Hendrick Motorsports. Let's see if the team appeals for the second penalty or not. So, that is for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Tell us in the comments what you think about the video, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to see more of our videos on NASCAR updates. Look forward to seeing you in the next video.